So we have Isaac and we have Joseph. Let me write down the names first. Isaac and Joseph. Isaac has 42 pencils and 28 erasers, so P for pencils and E for erasers. 42 pencils for Isaac and 28 erasers. While for Joseph, he has 32 pencils and 12 erasers. Alright, this is the number of stationaries they have at first. Well, in the end, after Isaac gave Joseph some pencils and erasers, in the end, 50% of Isaac's stationaries were pencils. So if 50% were pencils, the remaining 50% would then be erasers. So this ratio of 50% to 50% can be simplified into 1:1. So we can transfer this ratio into Isaac's n number of stationaries, which will be 1 unit to 1 unit. Alright, as for Joseph, we see that in the end, 25% of Joseph's stationaries were erasers. So if 25% were erasers, then the remaining 75% must have been pencils. So this ratio of 75% to 25% can similarly be simplified into 3:1. So we can also transfer this ratio for Joseph's n number of stationaries, which will be 3 parts, is to 1 part. Okay. Now the question asks, what's the total number of pencils and erasers that Isaac gave Joseph? So first, we want to compare the total difference in the number of pencils and erasers. If you look here, the difference in the number of pencils and erasers that Isaac has in the end is 0, since they are both 1 unit. There is no difference in the number of pencils and erasers which Isaac had in the end. Whereas for Joseph, the difference between 3 parts and 1 part will then be 2 parts. Okay, so this is the difference between the number of pencils and erasers which Joseph had in the end. Since Isaac had no difference, so all the difference would then come from Joseph. So Joseph's difference between the number of pencils and erasers will be equal to the total difference between the number of pencils and erasers. So if we now find out the total number of pencils, it is 42 plus 32. That will give us 74, total number of pencils. If we subtract off the total number of erasers, which is 28 plus 12, that will give us 40. Alright, so difference between number of pencils and number of erasers is 74 subtracting off 40, giving us 34. Alright, so this difference must be equal to this difference, which is 2 parts. So 2 parts, now we find out that it is 34 stationaries. The question asks us, what is the total number of pencils and erasers that Isaac gave Joseph? So now we would like to find out what is the total amount of stationaries which Joseph had in the end. In the end, he had 3 parts plus 1 part, so that will give us 4 parts. So 4 parts of stationaries would be 34 multiplying by 2, giving us 68 stationaries. So in the end, Joseph had 68 stationaries. Well, at the start, he had 32 plus 12 stationaries. Alright, so that will be 44. So to find out the number of stationaries that Isaac gave Joseph, we will just take his n number of stationaries, which is 68, and subtract off his initial number of stationaries. So that will give us our answer of 24 pencils and erasers.